A lot of what we do in volleyball is linked from one action to the next. A good pass will lead to a decent set, will lead to a good kill, or vice versa. A bad pass will lead to a really tough ball to set. It might lead to something that just we send a free ball over. Coming back at us, we may receive a free ball, and how well we pass is going to determine how often we side out. We look at a lot of things when we get more in depth, like first ball kill. So off of reception from that serve, are we putting the ball away a lot? All of these things require that a lot of our stats need to be linked. And that's going to help us understand the game flow a little bit. Now, I do a lot of this stuff when I'm sitting down, statting a match back on by video, or if I'm an assistant sitting on the bench or sitting at the stats table, and I'm kind of taking stats and making sure that I get the pass, the set, and the attack all in my capture. So let's take a look at what that means. We'll go through a few demos just to show you kind of where that surface is, and hopefully you'll find that it's really easy to do. So this is the match that we were setting up for in the planning section. So I'm actually just going to start the match. I've got my libero selected. I've got my two middles selected as well, who that's going to replace. And I'll hit start match. Now I'm playing by USA rules because I've got 12 subs there. And I've got Nicole already subbed in for my middle. In the back, I'm receiving serve anyway, so it's kind of the same as it would be if we were playing by international rules. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and say, all right, Anya passed at 3. Anna, who's our setter, set the ball out to Ria in the middle for the kill. And we've just had a side out. Now, just those 3 actions, just capturing kind of what happened on the court. I'm going to go down here to the undo area. And I'm not going to undo it, but I'm going to long press on this caret. And that brings up my set of actions that I've captured so far. And you can see when things are linked that they've got these arrows next to them. And a lot of this stuff is inferred. In fact, while we're capturing these, when we notice that someone has a kill and we're using the link stats, it'll go back and see if we just had an assist prior to this, and then make sure it updates it to say that, hey, this was an assist leading to a kill. Same thing if it was a dig and we killed straight off of that, we'll actually wind up giving an assist to the person who dug. So let's take a look at that. So imagine Barbara serves a 3. They wind up giving us a free ball back. Now in this case, I'm tracking defensive passing as well. So I'm going to go over to Nicole. My libero did a really good job. She stepped up. She took that free ball pass. And you can see down in the ticker, it says defensive pass instead of reception. It was a great pass to Anna, who set the ball over to Laura for an attempt. And then the ball came back over again. Imagine she had a really good swing, got them in trouble. They sent us over another free ball. So Nicole took that one again. Again, another perfect pass on the free ball. And then Anna decided, actually, I'm just going to take that one myself. And she killed it. So if I go have a look here in the undo stack, I'm going to hold and press on that again. You can see I've added the stats that I've captured so far. I've got Nicole's defensive pass linked to Anna's assist attempt out to Laura, who had an attack, but it was dug on the other side. It wasn't put down for a point. And then we have a follow-up pass from Nicole, another 3. And that turns into an assist as well because Anna was attacking that ball straight off of that dig. I'm going to count that as an assist. And then Anna gets the kill because she dumped that ball over on 2. So this is going to inform a lot of our stats down the line. So when I do go and take faithful stats like the assists and everything, that's going to make a big difference in linking all these actions together. The big ones that get linked are reception or passes or digs. So if, for example, Barbara serves a 2 and then they hit the ball back and she digs that ball and then we manage to set it, and say Anya kills it from the back row, all of that is going to be linked as well. So really any kind of pass that kicks things off or an assist, those are going to have these green arrows more often than not to show you that this action followed directly from this other action. Now, in the case that maybe something funky happens, we wind up passing a ball, say the ball comes over the net and we pass a 1, it goes over the other side, and then the play is over. Now, that's why I have things like this opponent error button to make sure that we track it. And when I tap that, the next time that we get a pass, it's not going to be linked to the prior one. So if I go look at my undo stack again, we can see we've got our opponent other error captured in there, and these two passes aren't linked. Or in fact, if we have another opponent error, if I don't tap on game graph, if I have another opponent error and then I go with an assist next, which would usually follow from a pass, followed by a kill, we'll see the last two linked, but not the defensive pass. So we'll go bring that up by tapping on this button here, long press. So we can see that even though we had a defensive pass and nothing really happened because I did that opponent other error, because maybe there was one in there, this assist is not linked to this defensive pass. Now, most actions that would be an indicator that something else happened, like whether it's another serve, that will start a new rally, that will clear those linked stats. If I hit this serving button so that I'm side out, that will also clear anything that's linked, because if we've just had a side out, having an assist, it's not linked to anything prior to that, because we've started a new rally. So the linked behavior is relatively intelligent as you're going to get, in that it kind of understands where we are in the game, especially if we're kind of going through all these steps and capturing absolutely everything. Even if we're not, like if I'm in the middle of a game flow and I'm just capturing really attacks and I'm capturing serves and that's really it, I'll usually capture opponent errors as well, just to have an idea of how many points we're getting for free. All that kind of stuff, that will also help fix the link issues. You may get a few extra assists reported if you track a dig or two and then track the attempt. But that's usually, I'm really only looking at certain stats in that case. And I'll go through those in the advanced analyst section. So that's what's happening in live real time. To measure the flow of the game, of course, I mentioned that we can also use the timeouts up here just to keep track of how many timeouts we have so we don't get any yellow cards for delay a game. And of course, we can also look at this. I'm thrilled with this so far. We've got a run of 6 points here, and we can see how the rallies are actually constructed by tapping through here. So Laura's defensive pass was over the net, led to an opponent other error. Maybe they hit it into the net or they shanked the ball themselves. And you can see how the rallies are constructed from all the actions that I've performed. So if you ever run into any bugs and you're like, man, I'm going to throttle the developer of this app, they've messed something up, for sure, send me a note and make sure you note, you can send me the match file and I can of course take a look to make sure that maybe we didn't infer one particular situation right here. Let's take a quick look at how this looks after the fact as well. So we can see this from the stat list and that stat history. If I go to one of my demo matches here, I'm going to go to USA versus Poland, quarterfinals from the Olympics. And if I go to the advanced tab, this has a list of all the actions that have happened in the game that I captured. We can sort it. We can jump to the different games here. We can sort by, have the last point first or have the first point first. In this case, I have the first point first. You can see USA started off with a kind of rough pass. We had Jordan set a ball out to Annie for an attempt, and we got the ball back. Now in this version, when I was capturing here, I was not tracking opponent errors, so we had an error from the Polish side, because we can see then that Annie goes back to serve. Next, she serves a 1, or sorry, Coachr goes back to serve. She serves a 1, and then we get a block. You can also see that we're capturing where the player was in the court position, just in terms of rotation, not where they were on the court when they actually made the action. So this is how we're able to also infer things like back row attack stats and everything. So when we look at something like the summary tab, we have, of course, all the main highlight stats that we want to capture. But when we get down to the advanced section down below, past all the individual errors, we can look at things like team first ball stats and team back row attack. Team first ball stats relies pretty heavily on that taking a note of absolutely everything from the pass to the set to the hit. Whereas team back row attack is a little bit easier because really you're just capturing the attack. And if they happen to be in one of the back row zones, then they're going to be counted as a back row attack. You can see that the USA had a particularly good game. 12 attempts, 7 kills out of the back row, 1 hitting error. It's not too bad. 13% of their attacking attempts were from the back row. And first ball hitting efficiency was pretty good, hitting around 400, not too bad. And then we also get insights like set distribution. And in fact, we can check that out over in the advanced tab. And we're going to go into this in a lot more detail. But when we look at set distribution, this is all driven by those linked stats. So we can see that Jordan pushed the ball to Annie more often than not. She's the opposite. Of course, the ball's going to go there a lot. Followed by our 2 outsides. Again, kind of a typical pattern you're going to see. And then the middles have a decent amount of attempts. You know, Coachr getting 5 sets and she killed 4 of them. And then Haley also doing pretty well. She had 5 sets. She had 1 error and then 3 kills. And we can even see who else might have set the ball. So Lauren Carlini came in at some stage. Justine Wongarantes, the libero, had a few sets. You'll always see that kind of thing. Catherine Plummer had some, usually when we're out of system. Jordan Larson came in and had some sets, and Annie had a few sets as well, as did Avery, the other outside hitter. So this is how those linked stats come in really handy. The very last thing I'll show you here, and we'll go into a lot more depth when we get to the analyst, is I also started tracking first and last touch just to see if my setter was going back to the same person who either dug the ball or passed the ball to her, whether it was on reception or a free ball. And in here, you'll get a quick summary of how many times did the person who took that first contact when the ball came over the net, how many times did they then follow up and attack? So in that little linked chain of pass, set, hit, they were the first and last. I started tracking that because we tend to do that. And I think setters might just instinctively go back to the same person who the ball just came from. But oftentimes that person might not be in a great position. So I wanted to highlight how effective we were being. And maybe some hitters are. They're really good at transitioning from reception outside and going and attacking the ball. And they're very good at putting it away. And they just have a good flow that way. Others might not. They might struggle. They have to put all their attention into passing, and then they're going to struggle to get back outside to go attack the ball and make that mental switch over to, now I'm in attacking mode. So that's what the link stats are going to help unlock for you. I think it's a pretty big add with not a huge amount of lift. So when we do go back to our regular match and we are taking those stats, it should all link up pretty nicely. And if you do have any issues after the fact, when I hit end match and I'm reviewing this, I might say, do you know what? It messed up a few of these links. If you double tap on it, it'll actually unlink the stat. So we won't have those things that weren't the cause of the next action. If you don't want to link 2 actions, say you're not taking absolutely every little item as you go and you want to make sure that they stay unlinked, but you kind of want to keep that linked behavior by default, you don't have to go back to the settings, toggle the auto link stuff off, and then come back to the match, tap to the stat, then go back to the auto link, turn it on. There's actually a shortcut where you can swipe when you tap one of the buttons, and that will make sure that it's not linked by default. So it'll just pass the information down in the system that, hey, I'm capturing this stat. It's not linked to anything that came before it. So if, say, Anna set a ball to the outside, it actually wound up going over the net because of an assist attempt. We didn't get an attack on it, but then the ball comes over and we do get an attack on it. I can actually swipe over to the right as I tap on the button. So I start here and I swipe over. Harder to do with the mouse. That will actually throw up the little lock icon. And if I go check out the stat stack, we can see that those ones that I've swiped over to the right on, they haven't been linked to any of the previous actions, where normally this assist from Anna would be linked to this attack from Laura. We'll go into this a little bit more and talk about how we can remove items and edit these stats after the fact. But for now, that's a good insight into how these link stats are going to help you gain insight after the match and then also inside the match.